Hey guys, Mo Trapper. I wanted to do just a quick video on 330s and the different types of 330s and some differences between some of the popular ones that are out there. And these are just things that I learned after buying a couple of different brands. Um, so the first 330s I got, my brother actually gave to me as a gift, and they were Belisles. So he went all out, and they are super, super nice traps. Um, I think pretty widely regarded as kind of the best 330 you can get, the nicest 330 you can get, and I would agree with that. They are very, very nice traps. Some of the big features on them, they have a little bit of a different trigger system. The safety is probably one of the biggest things about them. So it's a two, it connects to the spring at 2 points, and it stays where you put it. So it not only stays up and down the spring where you put it, but as you rotate it, it stays wherever you put it. So there's really no fear of this falling back down and re-engaging itself like some of the other triggers, or not triggers, but safeties. So some of the other safeties, can fall back down and end up re-engaging, and then you get there and the trap is sprung, but the safety was on, so it didn't catch the critter. No chance of that with the Belisle and the way that they have their safeties. So it's very nice. Another thing that I like about them is it's very smooth in this area here. So at the pivot point of the trap, it's very smooth and it's very narrow, right? And your spring eyes here are big enough to pass over that area very easily. So they're easier to set because of that. Other than that, they're just rock solid. They're very, very well made. And this is welded here. So this portion here is all welded and very, very smoothed out. And you can tell that they took a lot of extra time on that part. We moved to the Bridger, which honestly is my least favorite. The Bridger, in this area where I talked about on the Belisle being very smooth, it's very sharp and jagged. And I've actually taken a file and tried to smooth some of that out, but it didn't really help all that much. But the spring eyes on the Bridger are very small. They're a lot smaller than the spring eyes on either the Duke or the Belisle. And when you get to the center, you have to kind of twist them and just hold your mouth right to get them to go over that area. And because of that, I have to set them with tongs. I can't hand set them because once you get there, you have to twist and shake, and it just becomes a wrestling match. So for me, it's just not worth it to fool with it. So I always set these with tongs. And then the other thing, the safety is different on these as well. So it's a flat piece of flat stock. And once you get these set, you squeeze these springs a little bit more than they're compressed now to actually get the trap fully set. These safeties will slide down a little bit when you do that sometimes, and they kind of lock themselves in place. And they're very hard to get pushed back up far enough that you can disengage them. So I found myself having the trap set exactly where I wanted it, all ready to go, and then I can't get the safeties off. So I have to get something like setter or something and give them a good solid whack to move them forward enough so that I can actually disengage them. And that can become a pain in the butt too. So that's one of the reasons that I bought the Bridgers, was that flat safety. I thought I would like it. It turns out it's one of the reasons that I don't like this trap. So for those two reasons, they're hard to set. And the reason they're hard to set is because the spring eyes don't really pass over that center pivot very well. And then the safeties can lock, which is kind of a pain in the butt. So that's why the Bridger is my least favorite. And then here's the Duke. So the Duke is, of a very traditional design. These are the kind of the standard safeties that you would get on a Victor or anything else. They can fall back down and re-engage like we talked about. And so a lot of guys will actually wire these back. So they'll have a piece of wire going through the spring back here, and they'll actually pull that safety all the way back up against that spring and wire it to it so it can't fall back down and re-engage. Now, if you're setting the trap like this, that's not really a problem. That comes in whenever you set the trap a little bit differently with both of the springs on one side and slide it down into a hole like that. But anyway, they can do that. If you're gonna set the trap like that, you need to wire off your safeties. And again, 330 Maniac is the king of that type of set. And also he shows you how to wire off your safety so that won't happen to you where they re-engage. This one is very rough, again, in that area, but the spring eyes are much bigger, so they pass over it okay. So setting them's not a problem with tongs. They work fine. The thing to note about the Duke, though, is you do get a little bit less trap. So they're very inexpensive compared to some of the others. But this trap's 10 inches by 10 inches. The Bridger is 10 inches by 10 inches, so these are squares. The Duke is actually a rectangle. So, and you can see here that you're about 1 inch shy on this side. So it's 10 inches by 9 inches. So you do get a little bit smaller trap when you buy the Dukes. And then I want to talk about hand setting. I've already said that I don't hand set these because they're a pain. The Dukes are a little bit of a pain to hand set too. If I was going to buy a 330 that I intended on hand setting, I would definitely buy the Belisle. And the Belisles are, they have very, very strong springs, but they're surprisingly easy to hand set for a couple of reasons. One, like we talked about, this is very narrow and the spring eyes are very big, so there's nothing that binds you up trying to set this trap. The other reason is this is held up off the bottom because of the way this is designed here, so that this spring can't come around to be on the wrong side of the square. It holds this up for you here. So with those two things, you can get down underneath of it and pull, and that safety stays exactly where you want it, so you can just engage it. So, and you can see how easily that moves up and down. So the Belisles are actually, for me, by far the easiest ones to hand set. Now, I typically always have tongs with me. I have this set of Freedom brand tongs, and I also have a set of the Bridger locking tongs, which are another really, really nice thing. So you bring them down and they actually lock for you so they stay closed, so you can have two hands free to kind of do whatever you need to do, which I really like. I typically carry those with me, but if you're ever in a situation where you're going to have to reset a trap by hand, I think you're going to be happy you had the Belisle versus one of these other guys, because you could end up in a wrestling match with these guys versus the Belisle. Now 330 Maniac, he sets them all by hand and he does it just slick as a whistle, and I guess it's probably just practice, but again, for me, these are much, much easier to hand set than anything else. So those are the big differences. Those are, kind of the main differences in the 330s that are out there and available. And I hope you learned something, and maybe make a better buying decision than you would have if you didn't know all this stuff. So thanks.